Hello, Happy New Year. Glad you can join us. Here's what we have for you this Monday. The ousted leader of Venezuela faces American justice. The armed caravan to court and Nicolas Maduro's defiant outburst.
We got to be very careful because the Americans are doing things right now that just seem unbelievable a few months ago.
How U.S. oil ambitions could fuel trouble for Canada.
I think we have a big responsibility to push back.
Plus, expanding targets as Donald Trump signals more conquest to come.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
And we've been following big developments in a story that's sending shockwaves around the globe. Venezuela's ousted president, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife arraigned in a New York courtroom today on charges including narco-terrorism. Now, the leader of a foreign nation, was captured by U.S. forces in Caracas and transported to the U.S. And now, Donald Trump is also putting other countries on alert, threatening further intervention. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malman starts us off with what happened in court today. Hi, Joy.
Hey, Sandy. It was an extraordinary moment after being seized by the U.S. military. Venezuela's former president, Nicolas Maduro, appeared in court calling himself a prisoner of war in America.
Dramatic images show Nicolas Maduro, who days ago was Venezuela's president, handcuffed and escorted by police officers. He and his wife, Celia Flores, charged in the U.S. with narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation, and weapons offenses. Maduro defiantly told the judge in Spanish, "I was captured at my home in Caracas, Venezuela. I am innocent. I am not guilty. I am still the president of my country." Maduro's lawyer attacked the U.S. military raid, the abduction and arrest, as many question, was this even legal? Demonstrators lining the courthouse. Some celebrated President Trump for bringing down a brutal dictator. Others pleaded no more war. At the UN Security Council, several nations condemned the Trump administration's military raid, calling it a breach of international law.
I remain deeply concerned that rules of international law have not been respected. The Charter enshrines the prohibition of the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state.
Still, President Trump's not backing down.
We're going to run it, fix it. We'll have elections at the right time.
Last night, insisting America will tap into Venezuela's rich oil supply, warning Maduro's acting president Delcy Rodriguez to cooperate or else.
If they don't behave, we will do a second strike.
And boldly issuing new threats against Mexico, Greenland, and Colombia.
Colombia is very sick, too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States, and he's not going to be doing it very long.
The White House claims its actions are justified and will brief lawmakers tonight. As for Maduro, he's claiming diplomatic immunity, and this will not be a swift trial, Sandy. He's back in court March 17th. Sandy?
Joy, thank you so much. CTV Joy Malman in Washington. Okay, a lot to unpack now with CTV News U.S. political analyst Eric Ham. Eric, let's start with that whole question of legality, the legality of this operation. You have a head of state of a sovereign nation snatched and taken to the U.S. Legal or not?
In a word, no, it's not. And I think this is something that the judge is going to have to even decide if this case goes to trial, given the fact that it's still a violation of international law.
Okay. That aside, you know, there are all these issues. Donald Trump is saying, you know, the U.S. will run everything in Venezuela. He's using the word, we will fix it. What's the reality of what that actually means? And talk to us also about, would American troops be involved?
That's a really good question, because even when going back to this issue of legality, what we saw was a military invasion that now the administration is trying to dress up as a law enforcement issue. Now you have boots on the ground and the United States taking control of vast oil resources to now go into nation building. But that's going to be very difficult because we know the administration and when they came into office actually eliminated the key agency that would actually help stand up and run the country, the U.S. Agency for International Development. So they don't have, the United States, the infrastructure to be able to begin the process of putting key tools in place to be able to ensure that Venezuela is run as an independent and sovereign nation.
So a lot of talk at this point, but nothing, as far as we know, yet in place. In the meantime, Eric, Donald Trump is issuing threats against other sovereign nations, and you have to wonder how all of this is being read by China and Russia. Most curious.
Yeah, and of course, they're watching this play out. And what we saw today not only emboldens Russia and Ukraine, but more importantly, China with Taiwan. Even the U.S. military believes that China will actually look to take Taiwan as early as 2027. That timeline could actually move up now that we see President Donald Trump unilaterally doing much of what he has condemned other nations like Putin and China for actually thinking of doing.
And you also mentioned when we were chatting earlier, there could be implications for Canada. Talk to us about that.
Absolutely. In fact, now that Donald Trump has an iron grip on the largest oil reserves in the world, Canada, which supplies the United States with oil very similar to Venezuela, could now be moved out of the process. And given the fact that we know CUSMA negotiations are coming up very soon, President Donald Trump, who has already threatened to walk away from those negotiations, now that he's got vast natural resources and on the march for more, could even now more so walk away from that agreement, leaving a gaping hole for Canadian oil producers.
Okay, Eric, thank you. Now, serious implications for Canada, as Eric just said, with the U.S. getting control of Venezuela's oil reserves, the largest in the world, but also his threats against the sovereignty of other nations, Canada's trade being in the center of all of this as well. So CTV's Rachel Aiello picks up on all of that, especially the effect on Canada's oil industry. Rachel.
Sandy, global oil prices surged today, but Canadian energy stocks were down. An example of the sense of instability the U.S. invasion of Venezuela has caused. Canadian oil stocks slid today as the energy market absorbed the potential implications of U.S. President Donald Trump tapping Venezuelan oil reserves.
What this says is Trump views oil as super important, which I think as Canadians we should recognize. We have a big oil industry and very big reserves, but it also says that we got to be very careful.
Ex-leader Nicolas Maduro's weekend capture and Trump musing of more military action is sparking international concern.
It's by no means all about the oil. It's about someone defying an American president. That's a pretty powerful example for those who are left.
Canada is no stranger to Trump's annexation threats, and Prime Minister Mark Carney's response so far has been careful. But the president's former national security advisor says he doesn't think this country is at risk.
I think any kind of move against Greenland or even more far-fetched against Canada would be the end of the NATO alliance. It would do incalculable damage, not just to the United States, but to the entire Western world.
Carney spoke to Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado on Sunday, pledging Canada's support for a peaceful, negotiated, and Venezuelan-led transition process. Critics in this country say Trump's actions are exactly why Canada increasing its economic, military, and diplomatic independence is essential.
Internally, I think this boosts the obligation for Canada to get very serious, for Parliament to get very serious about diversifying our trade exports beyond the irrational administration of the United States.
Global Affairs is urging Canadians to avoid all travel to Venezuela, citing the unstable political situation. Sandy?
Rachel, thank you. Rachel is in Ottawa. The new acting president of Venezuela at first criticized the U.S. and then softened her tone in a statement last night, agreeing to cooperate. Today, she called the arrest of Nicolas Maduro and his wife, quote, an illegitimate military aggression.
Vengo con dolor por el secuestro de dos héroes que tenemos.
Delcy Rodriguez says she took the oath of office with, quote, pain for the kidnapping of two heroes who were being held hostage in the U.S.
La patria está en buenas manos, papá.
And Nicolas Maduro's son, who was also a lawmaker, said the country is in good hands until his father's return, and he vowed his unconditional support for Rodriguez. Now, Mexico's president has condemned the U.S. actions in Venezuela.
Derivó en la captura del presidente Nicolas Maduro y su esposa.
Claudia Sheinbaum says she rejects intervention in the affairs of other countries, adding she has turned down U.S. offers to send American troops into Mexico to take on the drug cartels. Colombia is bracing for an influx of migrants from neighboring Venezuela and has sent troops to the border. The country's president is warning the U.S. against further military action in the region. Flags at half-mast in memory of 32 Cubans killed during the U.S. raid in Venezuela. Cuba had been providing security for Nicolas Maduro since he came to power. And Donald Trump's repeated claim that the U.S. needs Greenland for national security has Danes concerned. Greenland is a semi-autonomous territory within the Danish kingdom.
Trump just wanting to take over Greenland is absurd. It's absurd. Yeah, it's just madness. I think it's crazy, and I'm not sure why they think that they can just start going around and buying other people's land from them or taking other people's land.
The island has untapped rare earth minerals and could be a vital player as new shipping routes emerge in the north. Denmark's prime minister has urged Donald Trump to stop threatening to annex the land. Okay, shifting gears because big story developing in Canada. Chrystia Freeland is stepping down from her seat in Parliament in the coming weeks. It comes as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky announced that he is appointing the former federal cabinet minister and Liberal MP economic development advisor. Now, Freeland, who is of Ukrainian ancestry, has been a vocal supporter of the country since Russia's invasion. She was also named Canada's special representative for the reconstruction of Ukraine. Let's bring in CTV's chief political correspondent, Vashi Kapelas. Okay, Vashi, I know you've got all your ducks in a row here. Tell us first about what you know about Freeland's new role and how it all came about.
Yeah, so it's kind of been a messy day, I guess, on that front, you could say, Sandy. Essentially, we learned that on December 22nd, she accepted a role advising or becoming an economic advisor to President Zelensky. We are told now by someone close to her that it's not full-time and it's unpaid. But the perception of her accepting a role to advise a foreign government while still remaining an advisor to this prime minister and a sitting member of parliament, right? Since September, when she announced she was going to leave cabinet for this special advisor role to Prime Minister Carney, she said she would step down as an MP. It has been very difficult in the interim to get anything official from her office about when exactly that will happen. Then the announcement kind of becomes public this morning, and the Conservatives right away jump on it saying, hey, why are you still a sitting MP for one government while you're now going to, in an official capacity, regardless of it being unpaid or not full-time, advise a foreign government? Hours later, just before we go to air here, Sandy, we get this statement from her that she posted to Twitter saying, in accepting this voluntary position, I will be stepping aside from my role as the Prime Minister's special representative for the reconstruction of Ukraine. In the coming weeks, I will also leave my seat in Parliament. I want to thank my constituents for their years of confidence in me. I am so grateful to have been your representative. I'll put a fine point on it, Sandy, and just say I reacted and reached out to someone who was giving us this information close to her and said, why not resign right now? Like, if you're resigning from the special representative, why not resign as an MP? They again reiterated this was just meant to give additional clarity on a timeline. Whether that will satisfy critics in the opposition, of course, remains to be seen, Sandy.
Okay, so Vashi, a question for you. When she leaves her seat, that's an empty seat for the Liberals. We know about majority and what Mark Carney needs in order to function as a majority government. What are the implications there?
Well, I think the implications are more largely around a host of by-elections that could happen. Her seat in particular in downtown Toronto is not likely to be one in jeopardy for the Liberals. It's one of the safer seats for them, certainly. But that's not the same thing as when you're that close to a majority, having a whole handful of by-elections up for grabs. That could change the game quite considerably.
Okay. As always, thanks so much, Vashi. Coming up, forced into full-time return to the office.
Frustrated because we were doing well working from home.
The backlash over a shift in work-life balance. As of today, all Ontario government employees were expected to be back in the office 5 days a week, no more working remotely. A similar back-to-work mandate in Alberta is set for next month, and Ottawa has hinted the same could be coming for federal civil servants. CTV's John Venevalley-Rao now on the push and the backlash.
Work-life balance. With a simple message, these Ontario government workers held a lunchtime protest to show just how they feel about the full-time return to the office.
Frustrated because we were doing well working from home.
These workers had been allowed to do their job from home 2 days a week, but among the tens of thousands of Ontario public service workers now required to be in the office 5 days a week as of today.
It is frustrating. It is frustrating, yes.
Some complaining there's not enough office space to accommodate all of the workers being back full-time. But the Premier says it's all being worked on and will get sorted out.
It's great to get everyone back to work like every other normal citizen. You know, you go out there and you show up 5 days a week.
Ontario's civil servants aren't the only group to see an end to most hybrid work. Alberta's public service is returning to full-time in the office in February, as will Rogers Communications, while many of the country's major banks are already back at the office 4 days a week. Employers argue fewer days at home boosts productivity and leads to better collaboration. But critics disagree and say it leads to, among other things, more traffic congestion.
There's a lot of resistance, and what we also see is that some of the best performers are likely to walk out and leave their jobs by being forced back into the office.
Most federal government workers are required to be in the office at least 3 days a week, but Prime Minister Carney has said return to office rules are being looked at, with more details to come.
As for commercial real estate firms, they're continuing to see a boost in demand for office space in cities like Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver as more workers return to the office full-time. John Venevalley-Rao, CTV News, Mississauga.
Still ahead, a meeting of allies in Paris, Prime Minister Carney and Canada's role in the push for peace. Venezuela will undoubtedly be discussed when Prime Minister Mark Carney meets in Paris with more than 30 other world leaders. Now, he arrived there this afternoon with a focus on post-war security guarantees for Ukraine. CTV's Mike LeCouture is traveling with the Prime Minister. Hey, Mike, you know, these talks have become more urgent as we get closer to the 4th anniversary of Russia's invasion in February. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, and the importance really of building on a lot of the work that was done just this past weekend with policy and national defense advisors from all of the countries of the coalition of the willing. Canadian officials telling us on background on the plane ride over here, essentially that they want to build on that and have the leaders take the next step forward with the work that was done when they did meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv. They say it's imperative that they continue to bring Russia to the negotiated table by making sure that they continue to put economic sanctions on them, but also they want to make sure there is enough preparation here, Sandy, for those robust security guarantees, which Zelensky says is one of the sticking points in this peace plan.
So Mike, if this is all about securing a ceasefire, one that's enduring, and also deterring Russian aggression in Ukraine, how can Canada help?
Yeah, that is the question that I think a lot of people are asking. But these officials are telling us on background, essentially, that Canada wants to be in position and wants to make sure that they are able to contribute in a significant way. The Chief of the Defense Staff, Jenny Carignan, will be at these meetings as well. And when we asked specifically if that means Canadian troops on the ground, they said that they will be in a better position, Canada will, to be able to supply, to have more troops next year, but even the year after, as they continue to try and hire more people for the Canadian military and contribute to that everlasting peace in Ukraine. Sandy.
Okay, CTV's Mike LeCouture in Paris. Mike, as always, thank you so much. Now we're going to stay in Paris for our next story. 10 people have been found guilty of cyberbullying the wife of French President Emmanuel Macron. The court says they spread false claims online about Brigitte Macron's gender and sexuality, including allegations that she was born male. One defendant was sentenced to 6 months in prison, while 8 others were given suspended sentences. All 10 were ordered to attend cyberbullying awareness training. And a bluefin tuna reeled in a record $4.4 million at a fish auction in Tokyo. The 243-kilogram fish, that's about 545 pounds, was caught off the northern coast of Japan. The winning bid came from a popular sushi chain and breaks down to about $18,000 per kilogram. The once threatened bluefish stock is recovering thanks to conservation efforts. After the break, perfect conditions for families to embrace the cold and go the full distance. Skating enthusiasts are lacing up for an annual Ottawa event, relieved that conditions are right. The entire length of the Rideau Canal skateway wide open. And we asked CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver to take a spin, and she happily took to the ice. Hi, Annie.
Sandy, there are few places where people celebrate the cold days and even colder nights. And here in Ottawa, that is the perfect recipe for the Rideau Canal. When the sound of skates carving into the ice echo through downtown, you know Ottawa has hit its stride.
It's beautiful. It's a magnificent thing. But it's the best thing on earth.
Every season, the Rideau Canal Skateway draws more than 1 million visitors. Today, skaters like Andrei Pustarenko and his kids had extra ice to play on. The full 7.8 kilometers is now skatable 5 days after the canal partially opened.
It's super nice. I feel like the ice is really good. Yeah, and we're just enjoying ourselves. Been skating for like 30 minutes that way. Now we're going back, searching maybe for some hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate and beaver tails are a must after a long, chilly skate. Going end to end can take anywhere from 30 minutes to over an hour.
It was awesome. I've been out 3 times, but this is the first time to have done the whole thing, and one of the highlights of the winter here in Ottawa.
A highlight skaters have been enjoying since the skateway first opened in 1971. Some out today on their lunch break.
I thought it was a good opportunity to get out. It's going to get warm later this week. Got to do it now.
That do-it-now attitude has become increasingly important. Warmer winters have made the skating seasons less predictable. Last year, the canal was open for 52 days, but 2 years ago, it was only open for 10 days, and 3 years ago, it never opened at all. A core winter memory residents and visitors cherish now more than ever.
This is my first time doing it. I'm from Montreal, and I cannot wait to do a full length because apparently it's the most Canadian thing you could do.
The full length of the canal didn't open until January 18th last year, so skaters are hoping that this early opening, Sandy, means a long, fantastic skating season.
You're a happy lady. Thank you, Annie. And thank you for sharing your time with us. I'm Sandy Ronaldo. See you tomorrow, we hope. Bye for now.